Okay, what's good, everyone? It's Nigel here, Trinidad Empowerment Network. So let's talk about Perenco. Let's do a deep dive into Perenco, one of the major oil and gas players in Trinidad and Tobago right now. You may or may not have heard of them. If you watch my channel, you probably would have. I've talked about them before, but today we're going to do a real deep dive into this company because they've been in the news again, and they have acquired Woodside Energy recently, paying a substantial amount of money for this acquisition. I believe it's around 200 million US dollars was paid for the acquisition of Woodside Energy. So Perenco is now a major player in Trinidad and Tobago, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you haven't heard of them. So who exactly are they? And what do they pay in taxes in Trinidad and Tobago, more importantly? Where is the ROI? Where is the return on investment for Trinidad and Tobago? And is this just another case of a foreign energy giant operating in our country with minimal transparency and maximum profit? As you know, when this channel was established, I talked about taxing the rich. I knew this government was going to do nothing. I saw nothing in their policy about taxing the rich. So I knew this was going to be a very long 4 years. We have these companies coming into our country, into Trinidad and Tobago, extracting the natural resources and giving nothing back. And there is no policy, whether it be from the PNM, the UNC, or whoever else, to tax them sufficiently for the resources they take from us. So who is Perenco? Perenco is a privately owned oil and gas company. They were founded, I believe, in 1975 by a French businessman called Hubert Perraudot. They have headquarters in both London and Paris. And they currently operate in about 16 different countries across the world, mainly in Africa. Their model is simple. They acquire mature oil and gas fields from bigger players. They acquire mature oil and gas fields from bigger players. They cut cost and they squeeze out the remaining production. It's a simple model. This is what they do. They have a reputation, however, for taking out assets that other companies no longer want. This is Perenco. And now they are here in Trinidad. So having just bought Woodside Energy's production platforms and pipelines and key gas producing fields, by the way, the contribution from these fields is about 12% of the nation gas output. 12%. This is what they've acquired for 200 million US. That's quite substantial, by the way. 12% is quite substantial. That's a lot. What I am concerned about, as I usually am, is the lack of transparency here. There is no transparency here. This is killing us in Trinidad and Tobago. So here's where the red flags start. Despite operating in a country where the oil and gas sector generates over 50% of the total government revenue, Perenco has not published any specific tax data for their operations in Trinidad and Tobago. That is a first red flag. Transparency. No tax data. Now, Perenco is listed amongst the 52 upstream companies that collectively paid nearly $2 billion in fiscal year 2022. Collectively, paid $2 billion in the fiscal year of 2022, but nowhere in the TETI report, and I'll explain what the TETI report is, can you find a clear figure for what Perenco paid in petroleum taxes, royalties, green fund levies. Nothing. See, this is not just an oversight, it's a transparency issue. The TETI report is supposed to be the Trinidad and Tobago industries transparency. It's essentially supposed to be about transparency. So any company operated in Trinidad should be transparent on the taxes, royalties, etc. that they pay. That is what the TETI report is about. So if a company is operating on our shores, extracting our resources and generating profit from our national assets, then the public has a right to know what they are getting in return. This is what the TETI system or the TETI report was set up for, transparency. So if we do not know the tax that's being paid by Perenco, if we do not know the royalties that's being paid by Perenco, if we do not know the return on investment for them being in our country, remember, the tax that you pay for the police, the military, the fire service, these companies that operate in our country are being protected by the money that's used to pay for the services that we have in Trinidad and Tobago, whether that be the firefighters, the police officers, the soldiers. They have to pay their fair share. So let's go back to Perenco. Perenco is they're a very controversial company, is what I'm trying to say. So in Colombia, they were recently accused in court of funding paramilitary groups during the late 1990s and the early 2000s in exchange for private security in Colombia. Right? In Gabon in Africa, and in Gabon and the Democratic Republic of Congo, they faced multiple lawsuits and NGO reports accusing them of oil spills, toxic waste dumpings, and environmental law violation. Even in the UK, in the United Kingdom, they were fined for environmental breaches in the United Kingdom, including delays in decommissioning North Sea wells in the UK. They have a checkered past, is what I'm alluding to. They have a very checkered past. In France, doing my research, authorities have launched, and they're a French company, by the way, they're a French-owned company. In France, the authorities have launched corruption investigation into the company's dealings in Africa. This is the same company now extracting oil and gas from Trinidad and Tobago. And I bet you knew nothing about this. Why is the national media in Trinidad not talking about this? Why are they not telling you anything about this? Why do you not know anything about this? Maybe you do. I don't know. You tell me in the comments. Have you heard of this company? Do you know anything about them? Did you even know they acquired Woodside Energy for $200 million US? And you certainly do not know that they pay, how much tax they pay in Trinidad and Tobago. So what are we really gaining? What are the people of Trinidad and Tobago gaining from this? So let's ask the tough questions. Let's ask the tough question, a question that seems to always go unanswered, because the government's not being clear about anything. They're not being clear about anything. The Perenco paid, like I said, just over 200 million. It was 206 million US to acquire a valuable energy asset here in Trinidad and Tobago. But how much of that money stays in the country these are the questions that needs to be asked. How much of that money that they invest in the country stays in the country? They enjoy tax credits and incentives for operating in a mature field. And without transparency, we have no idea what their actual tax contribution is. That's a national disgrace, in my opinion. Why is this not being publicized? Why are we not talking about this? Why isn't this? This is why we will always remain poor. We need to know whether the tax they pay reflects the true value of our resources. If you're coming into my house to take some things, I want some money for it. I want to be paid fairly for it. That is common sense. It makes sense, right? Don't. Meanwhile, the gas and oil is flowing, right? The gas and oil is flowing. The money is being made, but what is Trinidad left with? We have to tax the rich. We have to tax these billionaire companies. Transparency is key here. I'd keep saying it. Transparency is key here. If we cannot determine how much revenue Perenco is generating versus how much they are giving back to Trinidad and Tobago, then we are essentially handing over our national resources without a clear return on investment, without a clear ROI. This is why I told you from the get-go, this government was going to be an absolute failure. No policy to talk about this. And that's a recipe for exploitation. And it's been the pattern in this country for decades, irregardless of who's been in charge. We allow these people. It's almost like we bow down and kowtow to them. We bow to them when they come in to Trinidad. Like we feel so privileged that they would come to Trinidad to extract our natural resources that we almost let them do it for free. Just to be associated with these big companies. Just to say that they are operated in Trinidad and Tobago, that is not good enough. We are better than that. And Perenco isn't alone. For years, multinational corporations have extracted oil, gas, and minerals from Trinidad, whilst the details of the tax contributions remains murky at best. We do not see it. You do not know about it. This is why we cannot sustain our wealth in Trinidad and Tobago. We need transparency. And this is where we need to hold this pathetic government to account, past and present. We've seen similar patterns with BP, Shell, and others. These companies often negotiate these sweetheart deals, benefit from legal loopholes, offshore accounts, and exploit weak enforcement of environmental and fiscal laws. They exploit us. We are exploited. Another thing is we do not have the experts in the Caribbean anymore, or we are struggling with the experts. Who knows how much oil and gas they're extracting? If you do not have the experts in the Caribbean to say how much oil is being found, how do we know how much is being extracted and taken away? So Perenco, they promise investment, they promise jobs, but what do we actually get in return? These are the questions we need to hold our government accountable to. A few short-term contracts and limited employment and long-term environmental and economic costs is what we are left with most of the time. And all of this continues. Because our leaders across party lines have failed to put strong, enforceable rules in place that prioritize our people over profit. These are the policies you need to see from your government. This is what empowers a nation. This is why I say, and I will continue to say, this government will be an absolute failure. Trinidad and Tobago needs a new model. We need a new model. One based on transparency, complete transparency. The people must know. The products in Trinidad and Tobago belongs to you. We need transparency, we need accountability, and we need to know how the nation benefits from these billion-dollar companies coming into our country and taking our national resources. So I'd say this. I'd finish by saying this. Here is what must happen. And it must happen immediately. We have to tax the rich. We have to tax the rich. Full disclosure of all tax payments, royalties, and levies by every oil and gas operator in Trinidad and Tobago. By every single gas operator in Trinidad and Tobago. That should be a #1 policy. Tax the rich. We need independent audits of all extractive sector agreements and contracts. An independent audit. We need a renegotiation of outdated contracts that no longer serves the public interest. Think I'm on #4 now. #4, we need tough penalties for companies that violate environmental or financial regulations. You hear no one talking about that. You do not hear government talking about this. We need stronger support for local businesses. We need stronger support for local businesses and community-based energy initiatives. Solar energy. That's the future. We need support. We need to see activeness in that. Because at the end of the day, this is about sovereignty. For me, this is about sovereignty and about our national dignity. This is about ensuring that our resources benefit us, not foreign shareholders, not foreign companies. It benefits the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We are being robbed over and over and over again. And these government that we have put in charge, these people you voted for change, they do nothing about it. I'm passionate about this, as you can tell. I'm passionate about this, as you can tell. So if you found this video informative, if you found it useful, make sure to subscribe to Trinidad Empowerment Network. Please subscribe to Trinidad Empowerment Network. This platform is about the truth, it's about accountability, and it's about putting the people of Trinidad and Tobago first, the people of the Caribbean first. This is what we're about. We're not here to protect any party. We're here to protect you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So we need to stop this nonsense about party politics and possibly think about coming together. Stop this tribal nonsense, because it doesn't matter. You're being robbed regardless. Are you better off? Do you feel better off under this government and this regime? Maybe you do. I don't know. I highly doubt it. Do not lie to yourself. So share this video, leave a comment, and keep the pressure on. We must. So stay empowered, stay informed, and never stop demanding better. Never stop demanding better. This is Trinidad Empowerment Network. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys on my next video. For now, much love. God bless. Take care. Peace.